Welcome everyone to the very first episode of We Don't Just Plant interview series. This is not just the name of the series but also the tagline of Sankalp Taru Foundation. On the very first episode, let's find out why Sankalp Taru Foundation says we don't just plant. And for this interview, the founder of Sankalp Taru Foundation, Apurva Bhandari, is going to have a chat with us. He will be here any moment. He said he'll come by cycling. So let's see where did he reach. Apurva here. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Come.
So how are you?
I am fine. How was the cycling?
Yes, it was quite refreshing one, especially right in the morning.
Nice.
So yes, should we start?
Yeah,
today?
maybe we can take a walk into the jungle.
Okay.
Somebody can keep the cycle. Maybe we can walk.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll go for a trail. There's a nice trail here,
Okay, great.
and we'll do the walk the talk.
Yes.
Okay.
Come,
go
let's
to the-
go.
Yeah, come.
One thing that has been repeatedly asked is about the name of the foundation, Sankalp Taru. It is hard, it is very rare, difficult to remember and also difficult to pronounce, I am sure. So what's the meaning and how did you come up with it?
Yes, so the name Sankalp Taru is made of like two words. It's Sankalp and Taru. Sankalp is a solemn pledge and Taru is a tree. So this is a platform where everyone takes a pledge to plant a tree. So not only to plant but then to nurture as well. So there is quite a strength in this name. And yes, I know the name might be a little complicated to remember or recall. However, you know, if you look at Sankalp, name finds its place in many regional languages in India. In Telugu, there's a word called Sankalpam. So yes, we are making people aware of this name.
Apurva, online tree plantation. This idea, the inception of this idea occurred in 2011. So during that time only very little percentage of Indians were using internet, maybe nearly 10% only. How did you come up with this idea and how did you think it was viable, you know, to do online tree plantation during that time and the penetration was very low?
Yes, of course. You know, in those times during 2011 or 12, when we were conceiving this idea, the penetration of internet was very low. You know, there were many online booking platforms which were coming up, online booking platforms for travel, for bus booking, for movie seats booking and all. So of course we thought there should be a platform where people can plant trees online and use it for a better cause. And yes, we had foreseen that, you know, certainly there would be a surge in you know, internet adaptability, the usage and all. And if we can provide utmost transparency to the people where their trees have been planted, how are they growing, you know, what are the impact those trees are making. So, you know, that would be really, really great. So that way, I believe this idea has come a long way along with the internet growth in India, I would say.
Did you predict the sudden boost, like 50% increase?
Yes, of course. It was very much predicted. And the way the Indian economy was growing, so we had those predictions in place.
Apur, there is one relevant question following up the previous question from this person called Manohar Negi. He asked on Sankalp Taru's social media, he wants to know the roadmap of Sankalp Taru Foundation from 1 state to 23 states, planting 1.9 million plus trees.
Yes, so it's been a very exciting journey, right from one state, where we did our small pilot. In fact, 2 states, one in Andhra and Rajasthan. And then we have grown to those many states over a period of time. Of course, we wanted to start small, sustain those trees which we plant, then demonstrate the success to our donors, and then, make many more states and holistically India greener over a period of time. So that has always been part of our vision. We of course started with very toughest terrains. I would say we started off with Thar Desert. We started off, some of the drought affected areas in Deccan of Andhra Pradesh. So we really wanted to test the waters and see how, these plants which we grow there, they perform over a period of time. So yes, one click by one click, the platform has planted trees, and we have planted it on ground on behalf of our donors, I would say. And the complete voyage has been traveled a long distance.
Great. So also, since you said it's pan-India thing right now, and I would like to tell everybody there, look at this beautiful place. Serene, green, light and shadow, and we can see, listen to birds chirping. So I would like to ask, why is Dehradun the headquarters of Sankalp Taru, while Delhi must have been very good idea, right?
Yeah, Delhi, Bangalore, or
Delhi,
any other city,
Bangalore, yeah.
major cities where most of the startups or larger organizations have their headquarters. So Uma, this is a frequently asked question. Even I'm being asked this question very frequently at many places. Why Dehradun? So of course, Dehradun offers, we always wanted our office to be very close to nature, and Dehradun really offers that natural beauty, serene environment to the friends of ours who operate from this office. That's one reason. Second reason is, Dehradun has very prominent institutions like Wildlife Institute of India, or WII, Forest Research Institute, there is Forest Survey of India. So we do collaborate with these institutions as well. So it's a very strategic decision to be headquartered in Dehradun, I would say.
Great, great. By the way, this place is only 3 to 4 kilometers away from our office in, Dehradun. So you have talked about how Sankalp Taru Foundation has reached pan-India from north to south, east to west. India is such a diverse country. Every few hundred kilometers you travel, everything changes. Language, food, climate, everything. So how do you manage? I would like to ask you region-specific questions so that we can understand this journey better. Starting from Ladakh, it's very harsh, dry, and it's cold desert. And also, ecologically, naturally, there are no trees there. It's not very a green, you don't really get to see green patches there. So are you not changing ecology there, and how are you being able to function in such unreliable climatic conditions?
Yes, good question again, I must say, because generally we are accused of we are accused of changing the ecology of the system. Maybe that step might be considered as going against the nature. So I would want to clarify that our efforts have always been that wherever human beings are there, or human beings have expanded to a place, certainly there should be greenery, because there is a lot of symbiotic relationship which goes between human beings and vegetation around.
That's true.
The second reason is it's a it's an oxygen deficient place, so we really wanted greenery to be there in order to, create more life. Third is, of course, as I said, we always wanted to link livelihood of people with trees. So since in Ladakh there are very limited livelihood options, people have farms, but they are small size. The farming itself takes place only for few months in a year. So we wanted them to be equipped with more livelihood options. And yes, one thing which we do more scientifically is we plant native trees which grow in that region. So Ladakh, yes, the vegetation might be lesser, but then the salix or poplar or juniper, and then for that fact many bushes as well been growing there quite nicely. So we pick up native trees of the species of the region and then plant there, so that they grow nicely and they don't change or harm the ecology.
But how are you able to do? What are the logistics? Because it's very difficult, I assume.
Yes. So, as I said, the window to transport saplings to Ladakh is very limited in a way, because we can transport saplings there only when the sapling is in a dormant state, and that typically takes place during the winters. By the time winters arrive, roads get closed. The high altitude area of Jojila or the Manali route, that gets closed. So it's a very adventurous journey every year we take. By just sending off saplings around the same time to the place, and there is lot of weather forecast and logistical calculations which happen. So because Jojila Pass is really very I would say riskier terrain to pass. Most of the time it's snow clad during December, if we see early winters. So team with all passion and the calculated risk crosses the pass, goes on the other side of the valley, reaches Ladakh, gives off the saplings there, keep it inside the bunker. So
What
yes,
is it?
so the temperature typically in Ladakh during winter reaches around -20, -25 sometime. So if we really keep saplings outside, in open, they might die. So we have an underground bunker where we keep these saplings, water them, very frequently, or take the advantage of greenhouse effect. We cover it with polys and all. So that way, a lot of efforts go behind the scene, and we preserve them. And as soon as springs, onset of spring starts, we do start planting trees there, because the snow melts and there is a lot of moisture inside the soil. So I would say it's completely planned process, and a typical soccer game among many team members of Sankalp, which really coordinates well and executes this plan.
So you have this team who will transport the saplings to Ladakh.
Yeah.
And what about the care of the saplings? Who does the plantation and who takes care of these plants?
So we have Dorje, our very passionate team member in Ladakh, backed by many volunteers.
Okay.
And they plan this logistics on their side of the valley, like preserving it in the bunker, taking it out, distributing it to the farmers, oversee plantation campaigns.
There have been many frequent flash floods that have been occurring in Ladakh since a long time now. There are many farmers who have left the region because of the flash flood. The farm totally gets filled with debris with the end of the flood, and there are many farmers who have left their villages to for other occupations because of this thing. The will has been broken many a times. So how do you keep up their will, and how do you function there?
Okay, so yes, there is an interesting background to it. Dorje, our coordinator, in fact, he lost his parents to one of the flash flood incident which happened a few years back. Of course, there is a lot of devastation which happens. It really scares people as well. But as I said, there are very limited livelihood options in the region. We at Sankaltaru always believe that how could we help folks with something which is more sustainable and has a longer positive impact on their lives, instead of looking for shorter relief options for them. So we have been working in a few of the flash flood affected areas of Ladakh. One is Wanla village, where flash flood had taken place a few years back, and in fact people had lost their fields. Now we have rebuilt those fields along with them, growing orchards, and believe me, in fact trees are the best option if in the eventuality of flash flood we really want to save those fields, or protect it from soil erosion and things like that. So in nutshell, yes, we do provide them relief through trees, which has a long standing sustainable effect on them.
Moving from cold desert in Ladakh to hot Thar desert in Rajasthan, there are many questions regarding it because of the very little availability of water and hot climate there. So how do you go about the plantation there?
Okay, so yes, Thar desert was one of the toughest terrain we picked up to launch Sankaltaru, and yes, there is very little water, or the scarcity of water lies there. So we really economize water. We have micro drip irrigation system there. In fact, now we are coming up with Pearl PET bottle based innovation, where every drop really makes the small sapling grow. So we have been economizing on water. We're very passionate set of team members there, as part of Sankaltaru.
So there has been innovations as well around this.
Yes, and there is a lot of good, community participation from villagers as well, which really help us in sustaining these trees. And over a period, of course, Sankaltaru has grown now 4 forests in middle of Thar desert, which are now lush green, and you will find a lot of wildlife inside those forests. Deers flocking in, peacocks, there are a lot of birds. So that way, yes, it's been quite successful.
Of all the projects that have been that were taken up in Rajasthan, which is the most exciting one?
Yes, although this journey has been quite exciting all through, growing these many forests in Rajasthan, working in these harsh conditions where temperature in summers reaches about 50 degrees and in the winters it's around sub-zero level. Okay, so the most recent and the exciting one is growing a forest near Jaisalmer, where we are writing India, 2 kilometers long India with typography, with trees, and at a stretch of 40 kilometers, where we are planting
40
trees,
kilometers,
you don't find even a single tree growing. So the condition is quite harsh that way, and as I said, there's hardly any vegetation, and there are long stretches, where you don't find water or vegetation. It's very difficult to operate amidst sandstorm, or in the winters there's very harsh winter as well again. But the most exciting thing is there are about 12,000 cattle and livestock in that region.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, camel, sheep, goats, cows and all, which have very, very limited option of fodder. So this future forest would certainly going to provide fodder to those many livestock. And of course, villagers are very, very excited to see, small saplings and turning into trees now. And the focus is not only on trees, the focus is also on growing grass, bushes, shrubs and all, so that there is biodiversity which remains in the region, and flora and fauna really grows well.
So you tend to take care of the ecology of that place. Toughest of all the things that we have done for conducting this video would be getting up onto this one.
Yes, of course. Well, in fact, I was about to fall down from here.
There are many who understand the efforts that how hard is it to take up this mission of greening painting the earth green. So can you please tell us one of your projects, which one of the projects you have taken up was the toughest?
Yes, I know Sankaltaru has been known for picking up projects where it takes a lot of efforts to plant trees. The toughest of all, I would say, has been the Aravali's one, the project Bhavanam, which we are doing there, because it's complete rocky terrain.
This is near Delhi NCR, right?
Yes, it's very close to Gurgaon or Delhi. It's been very difficult to operate there because of the rocky terrain. It was very difficult to, in fact, take the earth mover there uphill, because we tried a lot of manual excavation, to dig holes for planting trees, but then we are not so successful. We wanted earth movers help. It took about 10 days for us to take the earth
Only
mover.
Transporting the
yes, because there were hardly any route to reach the hilltop. So that logistically it was very difficult. Of course, there were hardly any water around, so we made a water body. The community really helped us in making the arrangements for water. So that way, that was the second challenge. The third challenge was, of course, there was very invasive babool bushes around, which hardly used to allow anything to grow. So we overcame that challenge as well, since we picked up the native species and allow open spaces for these species to grow. And fourth one was, of course, the harsh weather conditions, because on rocky terrain, I still remember when team was operating in summers, it used to get really hot. So yes, now in last 3 years, we have grown considerable, around 20,000 trees on barren Aravali's. Hardly any vegetation, because as I said, other than babool, there was hardly anything. And believe me, we started off with a small vision or project of planting a mini forest there, because we thought in this rocky terrain only a small patch can be green. But then with support from local communities, villagers, our donors, and of course Team Sankaltaru, we are growing a wildlife sanctuary now there, spread in 35 hectares.
Here I would like to say, kya baat hai.
So we do coordinate with local state forest departments in terms of getting approvals from them or finding lands. But then I would say Sankaltaru has in-house domain expertise. Our chief scientific advisor, Dr. Tiwari, in fact, has more than 30 years of experience in forestry domain. So that way, yes, we are part with a lot of expertise inside Sankaltaru.
So yes, it's like a team game, and we do coordinate with
Because
external
there were
agencies
questions
as well.
coming up, like people say, "ये शायद native नहीं है," in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so we do make efforts to plant native trees, and this project Bhavnam, when we started off, many villagers reached hilltop, and many of old people, they said, hey, plant kadamb tree, plant people tree, plant papadi. Okay, these many native trees have already been growing here. They were here, but then as the city expanded, these species also went to the levels of extinction. So we took their suggestions and planted native trees in the.
There is this interesting fact. We know that Sankalp Taru Foundation has an association with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Can you please elaborate on this one?
Yes, in fact, Dr. Kalam was the first person to plant a tree online with us.
Great.
And yes, with all his guidance and blessings, things have grown over a period of time. Interestingly, we are growing a forest in his memory on the seashore of Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu. Yes, and this is a very, as I said, interesting project in a way that right at the seashore we are growing a forest, sea-facing forest, and lot of native trees as well as some fruit-bearing trees are growing there. Some of his favorite trees as well are growing.
Can you name a few? Maybe one or two?
Yes. So of course the coconut tree, the cashew, and the sapota trees are there.
Okay. How are you being able to give opportunities to many green warriors out there who are really keen to do plantation, to be part of the plantation?
Yes. So there are in fact many levels out it. One is like the farmers. We have a farmer registration portal, runs in all regional languages, where farmers do register who are interested to plant trees with us. They do write to us. Our coordinators go to their field survey, and we enable them with trees. That's one level. We have volunteering portal where people around the world register themselves for volunteering opportunities. We look for volunteering opportunities, volunteering opportunities for them in these COVID times. In fact, we are finding more and more remote working options for them. The third one is, we, as I said, we work with very large scientific organizations like, FRI or, CSIR organizations, ICAR organizations. So we do have academic tie-ups. As far as the green heroes, right, bringing them to the platform is concerned, of course, Sonam Wangchuk from Ladakh, we have collaborated with him in planting trees in Ladakh. Many more trees this year, we have been planting together.
Great.
And one more exciting one is collaboration with the Forest Man of India, Jadhav Payang. Yes,
Assam.
In Assam, who has single-handed, in fact, has planted wildlife sanctuary over these 30 years of time on the islands of Brahmaputra. So, in fact, we met Jadhav Payang ji, a few months back, and he has now agreed to advise us. We are together now. In fact, the work has already started a month back.
So plantation within
yes.
the Molai forest?
Yes, so it's like the extension of Molai Reserve Forest.
Okay.
So one more Molai Reserve Forest is coming up. We are very excited about it on the islands of Brahmaputra. So this platform has been bringing many more green warriors to the platform, and then garnering support from our donors.
Great. So anybody, if you think there are green warriors out there and need to be given attention, so please do comment on our video here, so maybe we can collaborate. What
yes.
say?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
it's by the people for the people. So more people supporting the program more people getting support from the program would be really great.
It's cooperation above competence and everything.
Yeah.
Great.